All right, everyone. Welcome back in 2025. Happy New Year's, everyone. This is episode 66 of Rocket Lab Weekly. This is the first episode of the year of Neutron, as Sir Peter Beck called this year. And we're going to discuss the news. We're going to make Rocket Lab predictions, and we're going to have lots of fun. We have today Matt Money with us and Dave G Investing. Sorry, Broke Boy we have with us. And so thank you guys for being here. How has your week been?
Pretty good. Can't complain about any of my stocks right now. Portfolio still around all-time highs. So very happy. Just been busy with family stuff, home reno stuff. And I just, regarding the year of Neutron, I do think it will launch this year, but don't forget last year was also supposed to be the year of Neutron around this time of year.
Yeah. One year we will be right. If we say
I think it will be this year, personally.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. It wasn't really until the first quarter of last year we were like, actually, December is probably a little optimistic. So you're right. But at least now we're 6 to 7 months away and we haven't heard anything. So
I will say I feel more confident this year that it will launch than I did last year that it would launch when, they were projecting it would launch last year in December. So
yes, there's a few more things in the ground to make it a little bit more confident boosting. But in terms of where I'm at for the week, things turned around. Bitcoin's turning around. MicroStrategy puts are still continuing to print. Sold puts, not bought puts. So just collecting that theta decay and sold. I guess I'm trying to think. Should I sell? Yeah, I think I can say this. I sold Alibaba, and I used some of that money to put into Google and Amazon. Had Alibaba for quite some time. I was like, you know what? In terms of rate of return, what am I actually expecting? I'm like, well, maybe I'm expecting a double to come back in Alibaba. Sorry, I'm getting messages out the ass. And instead, I was like, let me get me more confident companies. And then obviously Amazon, Google, those are pretty confident companies that'll double here. So it made sense to just take my loss in the short term and then use that to buy into companies with a lot more certainty.
Yeah, I looked at Alibaba once, but never felt confident enough in it. I will have to decide fairly soon, though, and what I'm thinking about right now with my portfolio. I know, it's Rocket Lab Weekly, but so yeah, I've said previously, like I'm going to be buying a house probably in the next 4 months. So I'm going to have to sell stocks and just trying to figure out like, what do I sell? What do I hold? How's the tax implications come into play there and all that stuff. So yeah.
I got a very interesting, very advanced option strategy from someone that just hear me out. He said like if you have to sell something that you don't want to sell, you could sell like an extremely in the money call option on it, and it's like because like at that time there is basically no time value on it. So let's say like if you have Palantir, you could sell like a $10 in the money call, so it's like $80 in the money.
Okay.
And then if the stock goes up, it's like nothing, like you can delay your taxes and you basically sold at the price. And then if the stock goes down, then you like win on not having sold at that time,
Yeah.
And I was
have to think about that a bit more.
Yeah.
Usually with options, I just try to keep it simple. I find that's the best way to go for me. I know there's all sorts of these advanced strategies out there, Iron Condor or something, Butterfly, all this. I'm just like, I'll buy some calls, sell some puts. It's generally worked out well for me.
Yeah. It's funny. I had a subscriber visit me from the Netherlands, and his dad was like a hedge fund manager, and he was also like working as an analyst in the hedge fund, and he was the one who was like, you know what you can do with the taxes? You can do like this with the options, and it's like it's super clever, mind blowing,
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyway, so I said it to you, and you do with it whatever you want.
I'll have to look into that further. Yeah.
Cool. So let's start with the Rocket Lab news of the week. Let me see. So this is how 2024 ended. So we had a record number of Electron Haze launches. major progress on Neutron, including Archimedes hot fires, no engine blow up. The LC-3 is taking shape, spacecraft built for Mars missions and Earth re-entry missions, constellations in development for government and commercial customers. Here's to an even bigger 2025. So not to spoil the part that is coming later, but what do you guys think is coming in? Like, okay, I'm going to ask the questions that I didn't ask in the prediction one. So how do you think the space systems part is going to do next year? And what major spacecrafts and satellite constellations milestones are we going to hit in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, space systems, I think, is always just steady and solid. So I expect some, pretty decent growth this year. In terms of specific numbers, I don't know. I have to look at like how much revenue they recognize. I think on the SDA deal would probably be the biggest mover. But, I'd expect some pretty modest growth. We'll see some MDA satellites get delivered and some progress starting on the SDA satellites, maybe some new contracts. I know they're working on expanding the solar business, and I'm looking forward to any new announcements along the way.
All right. Mr. Matt, Mr. Broke Boy.
Specifically around how I think fiscal year 24 is going to round out. Is that what the question was?
Yeah, but yeah. Like what do you predict space systems is going to do? Like 20%, 30%, 40%? And if there's any like major completions, like we're going to complete the SDA or the Venus.
Well, definitely not SDA.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely not. The Venus one,
here.
maybe?
Let me think. Whoops.
Mm-hmm.
Let me do some quick mathematics.
I was thinking like more 20 to 30% growth maybe is more reasonable.
In terms of total growth of
we're coming off of a monster growth year, don't forget. So
yeah,
sometimes after you have a big year, it takes a little bit to get to that next step up in growth.
Yeah, so I'm thinking space systems are going to come in at about 300 million, 290 to 310. I'd have to double check it. This was just kind of like quick off the noggin numbers, and I haven't put too much due diligence into it. So in terms of where it'll go next year, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to 400, 450, which would be a 40 to 50% increase, honestly. I think there's just a lot of revenue to be realized still with respect to Global Star, but like you said, it's hard to kind of gauge. I know Scott's a lot better about that stuff than I am, and you probably as well, Dave. With respect to launch cadence, obviously, I think we'll probably see us cross the 20 launches, with a caveat to see. The thing that I am starting to recognize is how quickly some of these HASTE launches are turning around. And so that could almost, the fact that you're going suborbital might actually be an amplifier in terms of how many launches you get off. But it kind of scratches my head. I mean, I'm not trying to be a bear here. The thing that I kind of scratch my head about is right now we're kind of counting these HASTE launches as almost like full-on Electron launches. And I know it's an Electron base. So in terms of launch, yes, you are getting the same kind of rocket off. But in terms of going to orbit, it's kind of like how Blue Origin claims that they have a reusable rocket when it's like they don't actually get to orbit, right? So it's kind of like, do you actually count those as HASTE launches versus not HASTE launches, or sorry, Electron launches? And do you not count HASTE launches? As do you kind of have them as a separate? Granted, we're not talking about 50-50. We're talking about 3 launches out of over 50. So it's not like it's a large problem. But I guess my question is, when we talk about getting 100, the fastest to 100 launches. Anyway, I'm going years down the road, but in a tangent. But I see 20 to 30% Electron launch cadence, inclusive of HASTE next year, and then 40 to 50% for space systems.
I'll just address that quick comment you made about HASTE. And my thought is that if they get paid for it, it's a launch. So, that's all that really matters at the end of the day. I see some charts out there showing Electron orbital launches, and then you're like, oh, wait a second, HASTE isn't in there because it wasn't orbital, but still Electron flying just because they don't go as high, and instead they kind of turn it. They're getting paid, even more usually in terms of ASP. So I'm happy to have this.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
No, go ahead, dude.
I was just saying I'm happy to have as many HASTE launches in the mix as they can sell.
No, I'm very bullish on HASTE. Yeah, and can you correct me if I'm wrong? I think they stated that the average sales price of a HASTE is north of 10 million because of the fact that the extra security reasons and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's around 10. Partly due to launching from Wallops and a few other reasons, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say that they're definitely, like, Rocket Lab is definitely counting it as a launch, and maybe from the viewpoint that for Rocket Lab, like, they go through almost the same procedure. The only difference is like where the rocket like on the guidance and navigation, but it's a software.
Yeah, and I don't believe they need a second stage in there. So to me, like, the margins should be even better, I would think.
Yeah. But by the way,
sorry, go ahead, Vince.
By the way, Scott texted me that there is like an imminent HASTE launch that he heard rumors about. I have not really seen. I asked him, like, can you send me some stuff on it? But he hasn't, like, come back yet. Do you guys know anything that I'm missing here? Oh, Curtis, thank you so much.
Curtis.
He has gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Curtis.
I haven't heard anything. Dave?
No, I haven't heard anything either. I would tend to trust Scott when he says that, especially when we know these HASTE launches are usually pretty quiet about them when they're upcoming. So, they could have a HASTE launch next week and we wouldn't know yet. So yeah, it sounds positive to me.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, thank you, Curtis. Much appreciated, my man.
But by the way, Curtis, in this prediction game that we're going to play, the one who gets most predictions right, I'm going to buy them $100 of merch from your store, but it will be in 2026 January, I guess, when we will see how the predictions go through.
Yeah, that's true. The one thing I will say is, regardless of whether or not you include HASTE or not, I'm sorry, I'm splitting hairs and I don't want to go back to it, but I am, unfortunately. They still were the fastest to 50, regardless if you include HASTE or not, right? So,
yeah,
Dave called it. He said he's done. And then I guess my question really is, it's almost like a moot point if you're comparing. It's like comparing SpaceX to Rocket Lab. Even it's like they're so far ahead. It's the same thing with Rocket Lab and comparing it to like Astra or anything else, right? They're so far ahead that it's like it doesn't necessarily matter if you split or keep them together, because nobody's really close enough to be in third or fourth that it's mattering if you're counting it or not, right? So
yeah. All right, so we move on to the next one. This one, sometimes Rocket Lab catches me by surprise, when they tweet like, oh, by the way, we made this for the James Webb telescope. And I'm like, what? You did that too? And then this was also similar, that there was a major achievement this week. The NASA's Parker Solar Probe made history, and when it basically touched the sun. And Rocket Lab is the one who manufactured the first of its kind water-cooled solar panels to help them from overheating in the sun. So freaking Rocket Lab has sent something that touched the sun and worked perfectly. Needless to say, this is one of the most important things on the space probe, because without electricity, it would not be able to survive. What do you guys think about this achievement? This is more like branding. It has no financial meaning to Rocket Lab, but still.
Yeah, I mean, very cool. Obviously, it launched a while ago, so not financially impactful for this year. But Rocket Lab does seem to, at least it feels like, search out the most challenging, difficult problems they can find, and if they can get paid for it, they'll do it. And then not only are they getting paid, but they're acquiring some pretty advanced tech and capabilities, like the MSR, this, and just another impressive achievement by the Solero group and Rocket Lab.
Huh?
Yeah, ditto. What do you think, Vince?
Yeah, as I said, I keep getting surprised. I'm not tracking like all the things that they're on, and then like I saw that they were on the James Webb Telescope, and I was like, what? That is amazing. And then this was because I'm a space nerd, right? And then like I followed the like I watched a lot of videos like the insane engineering of the Parker probe and how it works and everything, and then like to see that Rocket Lab made such an important part about it, it filled me with full of pride. But I'm like, okay, this is hopefully good for future missions, as I'm sure that they were paid for this long ago.
Do you think they had to come up with special, like temperature sensitive materials in order to go, or do you think they went at nighttime so they didn't need to? That's a bad joke. That's a bad joke.
They stayed on the dark side of the sun
Yeah.
to keep cool.
That was a good one. That was a good one. All right. So next news is we have gotten some new pictures. As far as I understand, it's the courtesy of Starship 24 account, but it's from the Wallops Vantage. Is this a second Twitter account he has, or he sends it to Wallops, or
he renamed himself?
Okay.
So he felt like Starship S24 wasn't a great name for him anymore when he's taking pictures of Rocket Lab's facilities and stuff. So
yeah,
brand awareness. I like it.
Brand awareness. Okay, so it's like we shouldn't call him Starship 24. So what was his name? Wallops Vant 24. Yeah, I mean, I don't see super much new in these pictures, except that the water pipes are still not connected in this launch pad. I don't know what they're waiting on to connect them. And is this like a second water tower that NASA is building, or they're renovating an old one? Do you guys see anything?
That was already there.
Yeah, they're just repainting because it has this building. What do you call it in English? The
scaffolding.
Scaffolding. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Definitely, you can see it's definitely a wide base. It'd be cool to see how much of that base it actually takes up.
Yeah, I feel like they're making some progress around the stage 2 little test area, but it's hard to see from these zoomed out ones. Still appreciate the pictures though.
Yeah, same here. Cool. Now we go to a really interesting one, the Mars sample return mission. So based on tweet from Eric Berger, it looks like the Mars sample return announcement is on Tuesday. And Bill Nelson says that it will not put the next administration in a box. And he expressed, yeah, that doesn't matter. I want to give a little bit more data before we go into the discussion. So there was another fantastic tweet, actually an hour before Rocket Lab Weekly by Space Talks. He says there appears to be a widespread assumption that NASA is going to announce definitive contracts for the revised Mars sample return architecture on the 7th. However, the studies conducted were to propose ways to improve the previous architecture or present new ones, like leveraging the Artemis program. There has been no public bidding for new contracts, which couldn't have happened in so little time anyway. Bill Nelson's comment, MSR announcement Tuesday will not put next administration in a box, pretty much reaffirms this, as awarding full mission contracts is putting NASA in a box. What's expected on the 7th is setting a direction in terms of architecture and probably a schedule for upcoming contracts and or further higher level study contracts. So I think this makes a lot of sense. My understanding before was that a contract announcement would be made, but obviously that's not how the government works. Like you have to bid for these contracts. So the only thing that they can announce is maybe that we really liked Rocket Lab's idea of how to handle this, or this company's idea of how to handle this. So based on that idea, we want to open up for bids. What do you guys think about this news? What are the chances that we're getting this? And do you think this is true or not, and what is your opinion?
Yeah, I'd say that's mostly correct. It's not going to be like a contract announcement, but we should get an idea of direction. Obviously, if they say they like the idea of this upgraded sky crane, then it doesn't seem like there'd be a lot of space for Rocket Lab in there. Or, if they talk about using Starship, then likewise. So I don't know. We should get some idea of, whose studies they liked, and maybe they'll pick and choose pieces of each, as Peter said. But hopefully, if there's a direction where, maybe eventually down the line, Rocket Lab could get a piece of it, whether that's like the, ascent vehicle from the surface or something. But yeah, I'm gonna watch for sure. Looking forward to it.
It definitely will be interesting. There's a lot more companies that bid than I was expecting. Some small companies that are, to me, I haven't seen before. So maybe it's just my ignorance and lack of due diligence. But you had some of the typical folks. Blue Origin was involved, a few others that put bids forward, and all of them have very different methodologies, right? So SpaceX thought process was, hey, we're already going to Mars, so how do we figure out a way to bring it back with us, right? Versus you have the Rocket Lab sort of methodology, which is trying to figure out how to get the samples back without having human direct input and bringing it back, right? So then you have people kind of somewhere in between which are using like satellites as checkpoints to be able to propel some of this stuff back. So it's very interesting. Some of the proposals actually really cool. I'm not sure if you found it or not. If I take a look, I should have saved it actually. It was actually really cool document that showed everybody's bid and what exactly they were doing. Lots of different timelines too, right? Like Lockheed still is like the 2040 time frame. Rocket Lab hopes to be kind of doing it in the 2028 time frame. SpaceX was hoping to do it in different time frames. So very interesting to see everybody in their proposals.
Do you guys think that if they choose a proposal, like let's say that they say Lockheed Martin is the one that we like the best, like do you think that foreshadows that they are also going to win the delivery contract, or it's still it's just, how do you call it, like an idea that, okay, this is the direction we're going and now we want bids from everyone to bid on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would certainly help whoever's idea they think, has the most merit and they go for. Like, obviously Blue's idea involves a New Glenn launch and Rocket Labs involves 2 Neutron launches. So also, I think they would have the most expertise with their method, whereas someone else probably has more expertise on the style of recovery they want to do. But I think anyone could still bid for, whatever they decide the architecture should look like eventually when there's like RFPs and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be comparable to what is going on with Artemis, where you have multiple different contractors, right? So not one person got the Artemis contract. It was a conglomerate of, Firefly, SpaceX, Blue Origin, etc. It's all design these lunar landers that are eventually going to be going on to the moon and kind of progressing forward. And I might have misspoke a contractor here or there, so give me some rope. But I anticipate it might be one of the same, right? You might have multiple, people that end up winning contracts or having to eventually come up with proposals together. Like, oh, we liked what you said with X, we liked what you said with Y. Collaborate and come up with a way to make it even cheaper, right? I don't think there's a one size fits all or a unanimous winner. I think it's going to be a case where there's going to be multiple winners and it's not going to be clean cut. It's going to be a long path to be from where we are today to getting the contracts done. So I hope I'm proven wrong. As a shareholder of Rocket Lab, I hope they say, you know what, Rocket Lab, the superior bid. All of it goes to you, but just based off of how a lot of these NASA things work out, I'm sure it'll be cut up into multiple pieces.
All right, I'm sure we're going to be discussing this next week, so we're going to know a lot more by that. Maybe then you can bring like what was the different proposals to see like what they, yeah.
Yeah, there is a page out there which is like a paragraph or two abstract of each proposal. So they don't go into that much depth, but something to reference.
Yeah, we find it for next week. I got a super chat here that I want to answer. Thank you so much, Military Mike. Happy New Year. Appreciate all you guys do for us. Vince, have the cover calls led you to be less excited about the stock price and even secretly hoping for a big drop? To be honest, it's for me as a content creator, I really struggle. I noticed it also on Palantir. Like, I do really well when the stock that I'm covering is very, very undervalued, because then I feel like anybody that I bring I direct their attention to the stock, like they make an unbelievable deal. And like when Rocket Lab was very, very low, I was like telling my family, tweeting about it, like everything. Now when the stock is recognized, or I know that Rocket Lab is very much in the beginning, but I get like a sense of, my content is maybe not as valuable anymore, because now Rocket Lab is like I believe is fairly valued, and maybe a little bit more than fairly valued. My cover calls, I don't think they make me less excited about the stock, and hoping for a big drop. Yes, I am, but that's also, I think anyone who's a long-term investor and wants to grow their position more in Rocket Lab is also hoping for a big drop. I don't know what you guys think, or do you guys hope for a big drop in Rocket Lab?
I think any company you believe in extremely strongly, you always love to see those buying opportunities. So it's weird to say, but yeah, I guess I wouldn't even hate a short-term drop. Obviously, you like to see it go up over the long term. Like, when a lot of us were sitting in the 3s and 4s for like 3 years, that got a little much. But yeah, those buying opportunities are nice.
Yeah. Cool.
For me, yeah, the buying opportunities are there. I'd be willing to take it. I think a lot of people are really for losing the forest of the trees a little bit. We talk about this quite frequently. What's the difference between $25 and $28? What's the difference between $21, $25? If you want to buy the stock and you think it's going to go to $100 or even $200 a share, let's just say, for example, you say we're 10 years behind, 15 years behind SpaceX, and eventually we're going to get to that $350 billion market cap that they're at. The equivalent without dilution, right? So give me some rope, and the magnitude will be about the same. It'll be about $700 a share. Does it really matter if you bought at 25 versus 23 versus 28, or does it matter that you bought the damn stock? And so I guess it really just depends. I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to $350 billion market cap, but if you think we're at $14 billion today and you think we're going to 50, does it matter if you buy it at $11 billion, $12 billion market cap? Or is the matter that you are in the stock between now and getting to 50? Now, of course, if the stock was 35 billion, that's a different story, right? But if you're talking about arguing between tens of percent when you're talking about hundreds of percent of rate of return, that's where I kind of scratch my head with a lot of people, and I think they're trying to nitpick a little bit and really just caution people, because I see a lot of people like, it's run up so much, it's got to have a pullback. It doesn't have to have a pullback. The pullback that we will see, and maybe I could be wrong on this, but pullback we saw over the past few weeks was a gift, and it allowed me to add more shares in 23, 24, 25. I don't know if I bought at 28 as of yet. I'll have to double check when my first buy was for the year. I have a systematic buy that buys, a couple $100 here and there, but it's not going to matter. You think about a $50 billion market cap, the stock's going to $100 a share, right? And so in that respect, just buy the damn stock. So I hate to belabor that, but I feel like that's something that needs to be said. I had somebody say the same thing about a different company that I've been talking about, one that's severely undervalued right now, unlike Rocket Lab. I want to push back a little bit of what you said there, Vince. So I think Rocket Lab's overvalued here. I don't necessarily think overvalued based off the future potential of what can happen in 2025. Now, of course, if everything falls apart, then yes, overvalued, right? If they're not able to get the execution right on Neutron, and the constellation doesn't come in as prolific as we expect, and and that, then yes, of course, I would agree with you here based off of what we're actually capable of in terms of revenue and net income, which at the moment there isn't any net income. It's all net negative at the moment. Then yes, overvalued is a good word, but for the future potential and where I think we can go in terms of billions of dollars a year of revenue, and potential net income going forward, I think we're appropriate with our current valuation. But I hate seeing people nickel and dime when you're talking about hundreds of percent returns, and they're really just hurting themselves. And so I just want to reiterate that.
Yeah, I mostly agree with everything that you say. I guess it's more the timeline. Like if you have like a 10-year or 15-year timeline, you're extremely safe buying here. If you're like want to, get out of the stock by the end of the year, you might not. Like there is a scenario that maybe we're at the same price or a bit lower than we are today at the end of the year. But it's super true. So I just want to, like, if we're speaking about 10, 15-year time horizon, 100% agree with you. If somebody wants to trade the stock, I don't think it's maybe the best entry point here. So it's always just to clarify the timelines. All right. So we go to the next one. So it seems to be that Elon Musk is changing the US space policy. He's saying we're going straight to Mars. The moon is a distraction. And he tweeted that, and it caused a lot of speculation about does this mean that the moon is canceled? That would be, or like the Artemis gets canceled, that would have a lot of implication for certain other publicly listed space companies. And Eric Berger wrote an article about it, and it's very, very interesting. He thinks that the end result of this is going to be that there is going to be a 2-lane Artemis program. And did I lose everyone?
No, I still see you.
See you, my guy.
I don't see you guys, and I don't see the article. But do you guys see the article?
Yep.
See you and the article, yeah.
Okay, good. I don't know what happened. It's all black for me, but then I keep talking. So he says that it's going to be a 2-lane approach. Now you guys are back. And so that there's going to be a lane that goes directly to Mars with NASA funding, and then there's going to be a lane that goes to the moon, because there's a lot of international competition for the moon. NASA has a lot of cooperation already with the European Space Agency, the Japanese Space Agency, and they have invested resources into the return of the moon. China is trying to establish a base in the moon, and basically not going to the moon would be like sacrificing all that to other competitors. But we also want to get to Mars. So my question is, from a Rocket Lab viewpoint, how do you think the Artemis changes, and is this good or bad for Rocket Lab?
Yeah, it was an interesting story here, right? Because obviously they're getting a lot of money from NASA to build the human lander, and that's based on Starship. But I think ultimately he's very pragmatic, and he'll take NASA's money if they're willing to pay him to go to the moon. He just doesn't think it should be the priority. So I guess it depends on how much influence he has at the policy level. If the moon is the priority, I think SpaceX will continue to throw their hat in the ring and happily get paid and put that money towards developing Starship. Yeah, and I don't see them, backing away from that. I think if China gets a moon base before the US, people will not be happy. And, same with, stepping back on the moon, which looks more and more likely. But maybe there's space for like more Rocket Lab and Intuitive Machines to pick up some contracts if their focus long-term is a little bit more on Mars. But I do think he does probably convince Trump and Jared somewhere high level to, somehow push more towards Mars while not giving up on the moon. And I like the moon, by the way. I think it's pretty cool. I'd like to have a base there. Well, let's try to do both.
Yeah. Sir Broke Boy.
I'm not too certain on my answer on this one. Basically, the question is around the changing the Artemis program, and yeah, I don't necessarily know if I have a good answer for this one. Yeah, I'll skip.
Sorry.
No.
I think it's also interesting, just like the larger trend of Musk kind of sharing his opinion where most CEOs wouldn't, and whether that is good for SpaceX or could sometimes have cause issues to backfire on them. But
I think what's crazy is I'm used to like seeing crazy tweets from Musk, right? But what I'm not used to is like I don't want to say like the co-president of the United States, but he's like very high, like that his tweets, it's like you have to take them a lot more seriously, because before he's like, oh, the moon is a distraction. It's like, yeah, whatever. He's like saying that the SpaceX, and we all know he wants to go to Mars. But now when he's saying it, it's like, okay, are we like canceling Artemis? Like, is it like going to hurt like half the, like what happens with Lunar Stock and all the other companies that have, and this,
that would just be devastating to Lunar. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not used to this yet, that like, or that he's, he's going into like UK elections now and like publicly endorsing, and his word has like 1,000 times more weight than it did before, so it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this tweet 5 years ago certainly wouldn't get this much attention.
Yeah.
All right, so and now we go to another thing, which is this next week is going to be a banger of a week. Looks like Starship 7 is launching on the 10th. They have tweeted all the iterations, a long list of all the things that they're changing on this new Starship. It's crazy impressive, like how much they're changing the vehicle design. As far as I understand, the flaps were completely redesigned and placed in another part of the rocket to protect it more from the heating and still retain all the controls. Guys, what do you think is happening with Starship this year? Are we making it to orbit? Are they going to start selling customer contracts, delivering customer payloads? And how many launches do you think Starship is going to have this year?
I mean, I think the launches is really the limiting factor, is the FAA and regulations more than anything. So I really don't know. I mean, we've already seen some changes start to happen around how that process goes. Definitely launches will continue to accelerate. I don't think there'll be customer payloads, but they will launch Starlink. Significant numbers of their Starlink satellites. I think there was some talk of having like simulators going up soon to practice deployment, but maybe someone can tell me about that because I haven't read this full tweet thread. And I think we'll just see cadence continue to ramp up for them.
No? All right.
I'll just say, I mean, the fact that they've launched so many times already is just very impressive. I'm trying to remember what part in 2023. I guess I'm reading here April 23rd. So hard to believe that it's already been that long. But also the fact that they've launched 6 times and are about to get ready for a 7th means that they're on phenomenal cadence. And congrats to that team, and as well as the iterations that they're putting out. I think there was a really good, I don't remember if it was Everyday Astronaut or who was actually able to tour Starbase with Elon several months back, but they talked about how each one of the new Starships will contain small things that will test other risks and variances associated with the launch, and to make it more efficient over the long term. And so I hope that this is something that Rocket Lab is able to employ in the future. Obviously, we don't have the financial means that say a SpaceX has at the moment, based off the fact that they have so much revenue coming in through Starlink and obviously the valuations that continue to kind of increase the value of the company. But my hope is that we can do something similar where you're testing out so many different variances, and I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of do this with Neutron on its own. Like, obviously we know the first Neutron launch will be fully funded by Rocket Lab itself, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's another launch either within 2025 this year or next year that is self-funded as well. Because my thought process is it's almost worth it to, instead of waiting for other customers to come out of the woodwork, it's almost worth it to spend the extra $20-30 million. Granted, yes, you might sell the Neutron for 50, 55, 60, but if you're self-funding it, it might only cost $20 to $30 million to put on the pad. And if that's the case, then it might be worthwhile funding 2 or 3 or 4 of your own to demonstrate the capability, the landing capability, the reusability of the rocket, and that would have potentially more customers feeling more comfortable, and it might allow more sales to come faster. So it's like almost like an investment in yourself. So instead of waiting for people to show up, you demonstrate that reusability. Now, of course, we've seen that there's a customer that's willing to sign up for 2 opportunities at the moment, but who's to say that if you were to spend an extra $50 to $100 million, which we have, that you couldn't gain more confidence and get billions of dollars of contracts underneath your backlog. So anyway, not sure if that answers your question or not, but pretty cool to see overall. Sorry, I danced around a bunch of different things, but
no problem. It was an interesting take. Cool. And then, so not only are we going to have a Starship test flight this week, we're going to have Blue Origin's New Glenn, which was just postponed, I think also like a few hours before Rocket Lab Weekly, to the 8th of January from Cape Canaveral. They are going to launch Blue Ring, which, as far as I understand, I did some research, so their Blue Ring is similar to the Photon spacecraft that you can attach other satellites that you build onto it, and apparently it's like Blue Origin's own design, and it's really good on changing between orbits and has some really cool capabilities. But Blue Origin is not like super transparent about what exactly it can do, so they're going to test that on the first launch. Now, this one, how much do you guys think that Rocket Lab is going to be affected by all this competition coming online? And do you guys think that this is competition for Rocket Lab, New Glenn?
In some sense, I guess it's competition. I think both will compete for NSSL Lane 1 contracts eventually. I think New Glenn's already in Lane 2. But the size is very different, so there should hopefully be a few different use cases. And I think really New Glenn's manifest seems extremely packed to me already. So we've heard Peter say like the first rocket is not as hard as the 50th in terms of ramping things up and getting things under production, as opposed to like an exquisite first one. I'm not super worried about it. They've got Kuiper to launch. They've got NASA missions to launch. They want to launch their own stuff. They need to launch Escapade. I think was it Telesat? They've got several other contracts, really a lot. So I think there's enough demand for everyone right now.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that the thing that's interesting to me is the $65 to $70 million price tag. So the fact that it does have much more lift capability than a Falcon 9, and also then obviously the Neutron, I would say it is a larger price tag, but at the same time, is it worth it? So I think that it's going to be nice to have a plethora of different entry points, right? You'll have Rocket Lab's Neutron, which is going to be the $55-60 million range and can lift, let's say, 13,000 kilograms of payload on a fully reusable basis. And then you'll have the Falcon 9, which is a little bit more so than that. And then you'll have obviously the Blue Origin New Glenn, which will be more than that. So I think it allows you to kind of see, not everyone's going to be wanting to pay for twice the payload capacity. I mean, obviously, if you need to lift it, then more than 13,000 kilograms, which is a lot, then you'll go with the New Glenn. But not everyone that needs to launch less than 13,000 kilograms will be willing to go to a $60 some million, $70 million vehicle if they can use Neutron. So, I think it goes back to who can get it down. I'd also be curious to see how quickly they test the potential reusability of New Glenn, or if New Glenn, because I know they do have a reusability factor to New Glenn as well. I haven't heard whether or not they're going to try to test that comparable to what they did with Starship, comparable to what Neutron is going to do potentially on the first launch as well. So I'm curious to see how that goes. Yep.
Yeah. Any of you guys are live streaming any of the launches?
I'd make time for it if I don't have meetings or anything like that.
Yeah.
Probably not. I don't know, unless I work 9 to 5 basically, so it'd have to be, if it happens to happen in the evening, maybe. I was actually thinking about live streaming the MSR update, but yeah, I think that's 1 p.m. so can't do that either.
All right. Yeah, for me, it's also depending on when it is, and I'm not sure that Blue Origin is going to have a live. They're not so transparent, or not so. I don't know. They're holding their heads down and just going ahead with the launch, as far as I understand. But maybe it changes.
They've been improving on that front, especially with the new CEO. But yeah, that's kind of their reputation.
Yeah. All right, so we covered everything. Now we come to a segment that I'm quite excited about. Let me see how I can do this so that you guys don't see the future questions. Maybe I cannot avoid that you guys are going to see this. So when Scott comes on, maybe next week, I will also get his predictions on this. And then in the beginning of 2026, we're going to go over, see who got the most right, and I will gift you guys $100 worth of merch from Curtis's Rocket Lab merch store. By the way, Curtis has gifted 5 memberships, both on mine and Matty's channel. I cannot see from here if people have picked them up or not, but if there is still left, then you guys feel free to pick up some memberships there. Cool. So now you guys are on the hot seat. Let's see some predictions. So how many launches, including Neutron, will we have in 2025? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one for a little bit. And I would even be interested if I don't know how you feel about making any changes, but I would like to say how much I think they will guide for and how many they'll actually have. So I'm thinking they guide for something like 25 maybe, and they make 21 launches. That's just a guess, obviously. I think haste is the real wild card. If it keeps ramping up, maybe that guess is low.
Yeah, I was going to go with 22, 23 in terms of actuals inclusive. And it goes back to the question that I was trying to ask. I don't know if it was this past quarterly check-in that we had with SPB and Adam, but I was asking if they would give us guidance as to, and they kind of already do, but will they give us guidance in terms of launch revenue by the individual streams, right? So Electron, Haste, as well as Neutron. Because obviously right now it's not a big deal because it's easy to kind of keep track of. But as we go forward and the cadence increases. But anyway, I'll say 22 to 23 for now.
All right. I don't think that they're going to give guidance because they stopped giving like yearly guidance and they're only guiding for the quarter. I think he said this. I think Adam Spice has said this. Maybe they will do something different in Q4. We're gonna see, but I think there's going to be 21 launches next year.
I don't like a tie though. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's right. You also said 21. Oh,
well,
okay,
that's fine.
Okay, I'll go for
you do
20.
20 and a half, or you could do 21.5. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll do 20 because then we have 21 20, 22, 23.
We're all
We
in the
ended at
same ballpark,
17. Yeah, we're on the same ballpark. We ended at 17, yeah?
Yeah.
Or was it 16?
Thought it was 16, but I'll double check.
16, I think we ended on.
Okay.
So the 20 would be 20%. The 22 would be about 30% increase, and Dave's is 20, 25.
Yeah.
Ish. So we see. All right. So we go to the next question. Which month of the year does Neutron launch in? So we're all thinking 2025, but are we thinking June, July, August, September, May?
I am
Something gets me
gonna
fired up about
say
July, personally.
this is a tough one.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm thinking October, November. Maybe some people will be
Ooh.
disappointed in that, but
Hot
I'm gonna go with
take,
October.
David. Hot
All
take.
right.
There's well, you can just say October for me. I think taking 2 months is probably not fair. So,
What any particular reason, or you would hold that for a video, or?
no, I just think they're kind of right now looking for, maybe July, but I think there's always delays with these first launches,
Always.
so
Yeah.
it's reasonable to add several months to that.
It's so awesome. The audience is also playing this game. So I
Nice.
see August, June, July, August. Yeah, November. Curtis thinks August, July 20th. That's very specific.
I'm gonna go more bullish than Dave. I don't know if I'm gonna go as bullish as Rocket Lab because I think they still have it as June, if I'm correct. I'm gonna go July, and I think the reason being is I agree there will be delays, but I'm saying delay from June to July because inevitably there's something wind or one final tweak they need to make. But I think that we're making more progress than I think we give credit to. I think really the only remaining item that I see that I haven't seen as of yet is a fully integrated neutron vessel that needs to be static fired, right? And I think once you do the static fire, which we just saw the first static fire for New Glenn, you're kind of ready to go. So we kind of have all the tanks and everything certified from what I've seen. They might have formally announced it. Maybe there's some pictures behind the scenes, but you have the stage 1 tank, the stage 2 tanks. You have all these different tanks that have now been kind of pressure tested, temperature tested, etc. The only thing I haven't seen is like a 3 or 4 minute hot fire test, which doesn't necessarily mean they need to do. And I don't know what the certification route is. I've seen the 40-second one, and I'm not sure. So if anybody knows, correct me. I don't know if you need to certify a test with, or at least do a test if it's normal procedure before you do a rocket launch of 3 to 4 minutes, because obviously that's what's going to take to get to orbit. But they've tested some of the fairings as well on a previous Electron launch. So it seems like they've got a lot of things. I think the only thing I haven't seen is an updated kind of timeline that they have and they share within their investor presentation deck as to like all the different steps that need to happen. But I'm cautiously optimistic that when they share that in the fiscal year 24 earnings report, there's going to be a lot of things that are green and maybe 1 or 2 things, maybe 2 or 3 things rather, that still need to go into orange, and that would probably be the fully integrated static test, and then obviously the wet rehearsal and then the launch.
All right. I am going to go with August, actually. I was in between August and July, but since Matt took July, so I'm going to take August. So we don't.
I guess I'm the bearish one here.
And I think, keep in mind that I think it's going to be very painful to watch because we're going to have a fully, as Matt said, a fully assembled Electron on the pad. And I think it's going to stay there for a few months while they do a lot of tests. And Peter Beck, when Electron was first launching, he was saying that we are like ULA and we like cancel launch for anything. And I think that they're going to be very careful with this one also. So I'm fully expecting that they're going to say launch on this date and then it's like, oh no, scrub, like we had this sensor, okay, 3 days later, and then oh no, scrub, okay, 5 days later. So I think the first one is going to be very painful.
That's what scares me about going to Wallops to
Yeah.
try and watch the launch.
Same.
Like I really want to see it
Same.
in person, but
Yeah.
I'm worried if I book like a few days off work, it'll be high winds, some sensor will cause some issue, and then I'll just have to go back and miss it anyway. But I don't know.
I have a question for you guys about this. So it seems like the Falcon 9 cadence is really up there at this point. Like we're talking almost 100 times per annum at this point. So maybe not that extreme, but it's definitely getting up there. My question to you guys is, do you think it's easier to neglect weather concerns and conditions because it's a heavier vessel and has more power? Or do you think because it's like Electron, it seems to scrub, is that because we just have a little bit more, I don't want to say more concern for safety. I very feel like they have a very good safety culture at SpaceX as well, but they have more of like a cowboyish, like we'll figure it out sort of mentality, and we've been here before sort of mentality. So they might not necessarily take weather as much of a concern at SpaceX. Or do you think it's because of the fact that they have a medium launch vehicle and they can kind of ignore some of that comparatively to say the Electron, which is a smaller vehicle, could be more susceptible to crosswinds, etc.
Must be something to it, because the weight difference between the two is like what is it, like 100x, and theoretically, like it's true, like the Electron is such a light rocket that it can be blown away in the wind. And another viewpoint also is Peter Beck said that Rocket Lab engineers everything to be very light, and then the engine doesn't have to have so much thrust. And Neutron is also an extremely light rocket, and the engine is going to have a very low thrust, whereas SpaceX engineers for steel structure, heavy rocket, and extreme performance from the engines. And obviously, if you're heavy, the wind doesn't affect you as much. And if Neutron is extremely light, it might be way more wind sensitive than the Falcon 9.
Yeah.
But now we're armchair engineering.
Yeah, I'll just add, it's also pretty funny if you've read any of Eric Berger's books. Elon just sometimes is just like, we're just going to do it. Like there's a few situations where, he's in the control room and his top guys are telling him like, there's a 25% chance something's going to go wrong. We should probably stand down. And he's like, okay, let's go. And they just launched it. But I don't think Peter Beck would be that way.
No.
There's definitely a case of over-engineering, and I see this a lot as an engineer myself. And people will put a 0.25%, stress weighting or stress factor on something, and then the next item is also stress factored at 1.25%. So you have 25% additional stress factor on top of additional, and it's like now you're just adding additional weight, right? So I don't necessarily know. Like you stated, somebody said it would be awesome to potentially get an actual aerospace engineer to know what kind of tolerances they're actually building into some of these vehicles. But I know in the oil industry, we're just putting holes in the ground, right? So a lot of times it's pretty easy to just add a bunch of different safety factors, but all that adds up. It's extra material, it's extra cost. So anyway, just some food for thought.
Yeah. We have a hot take here in the chat. So Krasinski is saying that he will give everyone in the chat $1,000 if Rocket Lab launches before December.
I love these. I don't know if anybody knows this gentleman, but yeah, I love these like this faceless bets because I make them all the time. Like, okay, I was like, where do we put the money in escrow? Right?
Yeah.
Because and then once you start like talking to people, like, I'll take that bet, and they're like, then they immediately back down.
All right, 96 people, so 9,600. Let's.
He's very
put
confident.
It in the bank somewhere.
Very confident. Yeah. He says they're going to announce a push sometime in the next few months, and knowing their methodology, they will do one big push to mid-2026. Yeah, I don't know. He has big balls, this guy, that's for sure. Cool. So next question. How How far does the first neutron launch go? So does it clear the tower? Does it clear max Q? Does it make it to orbit? Does it re-enter? And does it do a virtual landing off the coast? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident, given Rocket Lab's history and how well the first Electron launch went. So I say they obviously clear the tower, they make it to orbit. Maybe they re-enter okay. Even they've got some re-entry experience there with Electron. Maybe they have some trouble with the hover landing in the ocean, and maybe there's an issue there. But I think they clear all those other hurdles.
Okay, so I put you as re-entry.
Yes, they successfully re-enter.
Yeah. All right. Sir Matt?
I would say successfully re-enter. I would consider. Sorry, can I ask a clarification question, Dave? When you say re-enter, do you mean like a successful splashdown, or do you mean that they re-enter fine, but they hit the water going a trillion miles an hour?
That's what I mean. I think they re-enter the atmosphere okay, but they maybe have some issue with their practice landing on the water.
Yeah, 0 out of 10 practice landing. Okay. I'm going to go bullish, man. I think that they're going to have a successful splashdown.
All right.
I'll put semi-successful. Don't put successful, but semi-successful. It might not be as fast as Dave might think, but
so how would you define semi-successful? That it's like successful, but they want to do it again?
Comparable to what I guess, right in parentheses on the side of that, comparable to Starship 2.
Yeah, I feel like in this scenario, if it stays in one piece, then maybe that means Matt it was correct.
So where it kind of hovers and then it falls over, or it at least slows down enough. Yeah, like one piece, right? It's not screaming and like does a belly flop because it's uncontrollable. And I think that's where you're kind of saying, Dave.
Yeah,
or like belly flops almost, like no control,
or it just comes in too fast.
Yeah,
and yeah.
I'm gonna be Vince is bullish here. So I think that they're gonna do a successful splashdown, and then like for me, the successful splashdown is that the next launch is going to be on a barge. Like they're going to try to land it on the ship.
Oh yeah.
I wonder, it's a question that hasn't really been asked, by the way, is like, when are they going to get working on this barge? Because they would have to, I don't know if they'd have to lease it and kind of retrofit it or how they do it. I think that's what SpaceX did originally. So, or if they just buy a vehicle outright.
Yeah.
But haven't seen anything on that yet.
Yeah, we can ask them in our next interview. So does Escapade launch in 2025?
I'm going to say no. 2026.
26.
All right.
Do you know what the payload is for the New Glenn this week?
A blue ring. It's there. It's like the Photon for Rocket Lab, like their own designed.
Okay. Yeah, I think they missed the window, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one: do we get approved and onboarded for the NSSL?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, this one is pretty easy. All of us are just yes. All right, next one. Will there be an acquisition in 2025?
Oh,
that's a good one.
Can I ask a clarification question? Would you consider what happened with Virgin Orbit an acquisition?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, I thought we were talking about like acquiring an actual company, but just like acquiring some assets from a,
I would count that. I would count that.
Then I say yes.
Yes, I think there's too many companies, small, large, that will really struggle, and we've seen the struggle. How they've survived actually through 24 is
I mean, a lot of people. Oh, sorry. A lot of people are talking about Mynaric lately. Their stocks had all sorts of trouble. They're a key supplier for the SDA constellation, or it could be something else. You never know. There's a lot of companies out there.
Agreed.
I'm gonna go with no. on this one, because I think that the prices are very high, and I think that they're going to wait a bit more for different opportunities. But we see. All right, here's a cool question. How many interviews will we do with Sir Peter Beck and Adam Spice?
I'll go with 3. Maybe we get 3 in. Be quite good. I think we had 3 this year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's true.
But we had okay, like we had 3, but since we started, it was like every quarter.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess I'll just be bearish and say maybe there's a scheduling issue for one of them.
All right.
I think I'm doubling down on that one, Dave. I think that because there's going to be likely a scheduling issue because we almost just had one, and then I also think that they're going to be super busy with Neutron in one of them, whether it's pre-launch, post-launch, etc. So I'm saying 2.
2. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 4.
I want to call Peter up every day, but I don't. Strategically, they didn't give me his number, so
Yeah,
that was very
probably
strategic.
for the best.
Because I'd be like, hey, I'd text him in the morning, like, hey, Pete, have a good luck at work today. Like,
have a good day
be
today.
Like, block, like, you'd immediately block me.
Cool. I just want to thank Craig8989 for £5. He says this is like 2,000 Zimbabwe dollars. I guess maybe you're from Zimbabwe, but yeah, thank you so much for the super chat.
Yeah, I did visit Zimbabwe on a vacation once, and yeah, you get bills that like the bill says like 20,000 whatever. The numbers are just crazy high from like inflation running away.
Yeah, I was in Turkey, and one scoop of ice cream was like 2 million of their currency.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's like you buy a piece of candy, and it's it's like in the millions. So yeah, I mean, I think that we're going to get after every quarter because I think they set aside time to speak with the people they want to speak to, and I think it has somehow worked for them that we do their interviews. I mean, since we interview them. I mean, I'm not saying it's because of us, but the stock price has been like going to the moon. So maybe they think it was like working for them. All right, and we got 50 Norwegian krona, guys. I think it's mostly retail or institutions driving the stock price lately. Oh, I'm always so conflicted on this one because, like I hear, for example, on Tesla that retail is selling and then Tesla is up like 7%. And I'm like, there ain't no way retail has that much money to move Tesla stock. Now, Rocket Lab is a much smaller company, much smaller market cap. I think it has like 50-60% institutional ownership. So I'm not sure how much retail is moving the price. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I did see some big institution buys, like articles mentioning them recently. So I thought it would be higher, like you said, like retail would be higher, but I do think retail definitely plays a role. But and I don't think you necessarily want 100% retail ownership either, just in case you get some crazy volatility and stuff. You want at least some show of confidence from those big institutions and companies, but I'd say it's a mix.
Yeah, I think how retail maybe influences the stock price is that a lot of us are like hoarding the stock, and then like we buy and then like we're not selling at any price. So even if the stock is like going to 20, so if there is like a large institution, there is like very few sellers, and that's also might be why the price is moving up so much, because we are just we love buying the stock. We're not really good at selling the stock.
Definitely remove some shares from the float.
Yeah. All right, cool. We go back to the questions. So this is the last one. So
oh man,
this is now you guys are really on the hot seat. So what will the Rocket Lab stock price be at the end of 2025?
Man, I feel like this could be anywhere. Like this is tough. This is a tough one.
I know. I had the same idea.
Okay.
I'm
I haven't
afraid
really
it's
sat
20-0.
down to think about this at any length. So definitely don't.
You can give it next week if you want.
No,
to
no,
think about it.
I'll throw out a number, but don't. Nobody in chat or watching put any weight on this number at all. I say successful neutron launch. We're at $30.57.
That's a very interesting one. Yeah, Matt.
I'm gonna go $45.22.
Wow.
Matt is the bullish one.
Well, I said
Okay.
15 by the end of 2025, and I that was my article in February 2024, and I was wrong. Well, I guess I'm not yet wrong yet because I guess we haven't got to the end of 2025, but that was my previous prediction. So 45 would make it a $22.5 billion company. So.
All right, so I'm going to give a little bit of reasoning. So I have a very tough time predicting the like what the market is going to do, because I feel that there's three scenarios that can happen. One, the market goes up. One, the market stays the same. The market goes down. Okay, like jokes aside, I feel that there was super over optimism about Trump, and a lot of things have run a lot. And I think maybe we ran a bit too much. And I think that people are not taking into account that if this government department, so this Doge, is really going to take effect, it could be that the first year of the Trump presidency, we actually get a hit, which gets like undone, in year 2, 3, and 4. So I think that there can be a scenario that Rocket Lab finishes the year like in the 15-20s, but I think that would be not because of Rocket Lab. It would be like some macro cycle. And then if the optimism continues, I would also agree with Matt that we like if Neutron launches on time, we sell new contracts, and the market continues to have animal spirits, 45 could be real. And I think that I'm going to go with 30 because that's like in between these two. And so I'm going to go with that one. But it's very tough predicting the stock price.
Fun times. Feels kind of surreal. Like we were having probably similar conversations this time last year, talking about like $5, $6, $7 or whatever. But
Yeah, and it's the same. What's nuts is that it's the same company. We had like a huge macro change like behind the company with the interest rates, Trump, and I'm very surprised that the stock ran up this much. I don't know about you guys.
If anything, if there's anything I've learned over the past year, it's like you cannot underestimate the importance of like the macro effects and the overall market.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been just Rocket Lab with this crazy run, although it's been great.
Yeah, look at this comment. Vince, Matt, Dave were wildly off on the end of the 2024.
I don't doubt that.
Okay, so this guy, Mon of Sun, please show me a person who predicted that Rocket Lab was going to end 2024 where it ended. Like, please give me one. Because
if someone really put their money where their mouth was and bought call options with like a, $20 strike expiring, they could have made a ton of money. But
somebody says I predicted it in Reddit. No way. Please tell me that you bought call options or you. These are maybe
Guess
you
what?
did.
Who cares if I was right or wrong? I'm fucking rich. No, I'm just kidding.
We were right directionally in that we bought and hold the stock.
Exactly.
Ooh, the sovereign investor, amazing. He apparently bought a lot of call options. I think that's also what this Cyber Prince has done. He has had the balls of steel, and he has had full of call options on margin, as far as I understood.
Risky business.
Very, very risky. I think Francisco had also $10 calls when we were like in the threes.
Yeah,
he was.
I did have a 20x call option, but I only started with 1,000, so it went to 20,000. But
awesome.
Ooh,
unfortunately, I didn't go all in on those.
Look at this. Call me Curtis. $3 January 15 calls yesterday. He exercised them.
Can you imagine calling him up, be like, because you only have to pay the $5 or the $3 per share. He's like, yes,
oh my God,
I will pay my $300 per contract. Can you imagine that right now? Jesus Christ.
That is the definition of
I have some
$5
and $7. I have some $5 and $7 that I bought when we remember after was it Q3 when we initially went to 24 and then we came back down to like 17 or 16 or something. I bought $5 and $7 leaps then, and they're up about 150 for the $5, and then I think I added more $7, so I don't think I'm up as much, but I think I'm probably up about over 100% of the originals, and then I think I bought more, which dragged the price down a little bit. But I'll probably convert those too.
But
yeah,
I'm
what are you gonna do? Are you gonna sell them? I mean,
yeah. I'm so happy to see this, but apparently a lot of people had call options on $4 January 25th by Jed Luke.
Yeah, Jed did well.
But he bought them when the stock was 3, or did he buy them like when we were in the 8 or 10 and then it was like in the money calls?
I forget the exact details. I just remember talking with him, I think on Twitter or something, and yeah, he did quite well.
Amazing. I'm so happy to see this. Anyways, this was a super fun episode. I don't know if you guys have anything to say before we end, but I very much enjoyed it. Looking forward to seeing how the predictions play out.
Yeah, it's been fun. I'll give you one bonus prediction, and that is we do not have an electron booster reused in 2025.
Ooh,
it's
that's
just not the focus in my mind.
That's also a hot one. So
I'm with you on that one.
Okay, no electron reuse.
What about an engine? Will an engine be reused?
Oh, they've already done one engine, but
yeah,
no, I'm talking full booster. I'm saying no.
Yeah, I mean, I would also have to agree with this because I think
put full no electron reuse and then in parentheses full booster. Because I could see them potentially doing another reused engine or something, but
maybe.
Oh, we just got also a super chat. Let me see. From Norway.
Wow. Congratulations, Galaxy.
Yeah, bought around 40K shares below 5, almost all my net worth, made me pretty much financially free at 26. Thanks for everything you guys have done.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing. Congratulations, man.
Yeah, well done.
Really well done.
That's the thing, and talking about that, I didn't want to go into a preachy mode, but you guys know me, so I'm going to anyway. The thing that I'm concerned about is I think a lot of people have been very much used to the 2023-2024 bull markets that we've seen coming off of the back of a very bearish 2022. And so I caution folks that are newer to investing that 2024 was an abnormal year, and as was 2023, I'd say in most cases as well. And, most people would be better off just investing in the S&P 500. Now, if you put in a lot of due diligence, like Dave, for example, puts in so much due diligence in a lot of these companies, and I don't really see Dave. Dave will do some swing trades. And sorry if I'm calling you out here, Dave.
Yeah,
Dave will do some swing trades, but I don't think I see Dave investing long term into bullshit like space stocks. Just like full port stop there. Like I'll see Dave maybe swing trade some like kind of more speculative names, but I don't ever see it. So Dave's really good about buying companies that have true underlying value. And I fear that because in 2023, 2024, it was like shooting fish in a barrel with respect to getting sometimes 50 to 100% returns on some of these companies that actually have no true value, that people will consider that that's exactly the same thing they need to do in 2025. And I don't necessarily know yet if that's the right move, right? This bullish buy anything in space mentality that showed up in the second half of 2024 may continue, but it might also fall flat on its face if you start to see a plethora of bankruptcies like we saw in the later half of 2022 and early 2023. So I just want people to be cautious, and that's not so specifically to space. I think that's specifically across the entire board of investing. I just want people to recognize, like, it's okay to invest in high quality companies like Rocket Lab and stuff of the like, and there will be pullbacks, in my opinion, on the order of magnitude of 20, 30, maybe even 50% in some cases. But some of these other companies might not ever get to the place that you think they might. And so just be cautious that if you make a little bit of profit and you don't necessarily feel comfortable with the position, it's okay to take profit and or just trim them, right? Like, I just see a lot of people going into companies that will change their MO. They're Bitcoin companies today. They're massive space companies tomorrow. I'm not going to call out any names. And I know a lot of people in the chat that made some money on some of these stocks. But companies that switch their MO without a drop, within a drop of a hat, and don't necessarily like have a long-term vision, they just kind of go with whatever is on the agenda or what's in the hot topic for the week, whether it's AI or quantum computing, etc. Those companies are literally just looking for exit liquidity, and most of the time they're not actually truly adding any value. Somehow they went public off of some previous agenda that they had, and they're waiting to find somebody that's going to be stuck holding the bag of shit. And so I just don't want that to happen to anybody, always during times like this where the market's gone up so brilliantly and you've left with, say, life-changing returns that we've seen some of these people make, just be cautious that a lot of things have gone up into the right direction. And it's okay to consolidate positions into things that you actually want to hold for the next 5 to 10 years. And granted, this is coming from somebody that's more of a long-term investor, but generally speaking, when there's bull markets, you tend to accumulate a lot of different companies for no reason at all. And it's an appropriate time now, before the market turns the opposite direction, to potentially cut some of those off. Sorry.
I think it's. I'm very happy that you said this, because that's also my worry, that people have gone so much gains that everybody thinks they're like genius investors. I saw this meme when somebody is like, "Oh, my stocks are 200%," and then it says like it's the bull market, like the mirror says it's the bull market, and the guy's like, "No, I'm the genius," and and I feel that like we had in 2022 we had bad times, and then in 2023 2024 we had insanely good times. And remember, it ebbs and flows, and there's going to come bad times, and please make sure that if you have had life-changing wins, your job is now to keep it and not give it back to the market, and really be on the safer side, and not go all in until we have the next bear market, because I would love to say that, like picking Palantir and Rocket Lab was my genius and your guys' genius, but it had a lot to do with macro change, because these two companies they did improve, but they are basically just following the thesis that we thought that they would do,
And pendulum swings, right? It was super hated for both, and now it's hip to. So eventually, even if you come back to the middle, that just means retracement in general, right? So
yeah. Cool, guys. Very enjoyed today's episode. Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and exciting week coming up. See you next week on Rocket Lab Weekly.
Thanks for inviting me. Always a good time.
Yeah, thanks for coming.